Daddy. If you like what you see, comment and subscribe.
Sipping on a 40. Yo, I know it's been a minute, huh? Homie, I'm back. Yeah, I said, homie, I'm back.
Microphone check, 1 2 1 2. Check. Welcome everybody to episode 43 of the Mr. Dad podcast.
Hi, Daddy.
/ video class. Fuck you, Randy. This week I've been getting a lot of requests for me to touch on reparations. I am not a political blog or videocast. I am a father, right? But I did think that it was important to put a little twist on reparations. I had a episode I did about a year ago where I touched on reparations. And okay, here's a little clip of it.
That's where the next topic comes in.
We can talk about that for them, but yeah.
Reparations, right? Black community. This is one of the reasons why we are fucked. Let me tell you why. And anyone that disagrees with this is a fucking liar. There is no other community in this world that didn't receive reparations.
Right.
The Indians get reservations.
We ain't got our
No one
40
told me
acres
to
or
chill.
mule.
The Jewish people, America didn't even do nothing to the Jewish people, and we still giving them reparations for the Holocaust.
Right.
We have the Japanese, the Armenians.
So that was my take on reparations and how African Americans have yet are the only race that was enslaved, massacred, and didn't get a form of reparations for it. We were told to be pulled up by our bootstraps from boots, I guess, that we weren't apparently wearing, more like socks or bare feet. However, I digress. And I guess the question that I would raise to most people is, what would reparations look like? Just think about that for 1 second. Because I do have a few answers to that question, even though it's very loaded. But what would reparations look like? Would it be a form of money? Would it be land? Would it be land that we wanted? Would it be amount of money to allow us to invest in ownership? What would it look like? Like, seriously. Because everyone keeps yelling reparations, but no one is really letting us know what it would look like. So, here's some thoughts. First, let me start with the numbers. We were promised 40 acres and a mule if we won the Civil War, correct? Stop me if... Oh, wait, you can't stop me because it's my show. Just continue watching. So 40 acres and a mule. A mule ranges between $1,000 and $8,000. $1,000 and $8,000. Register that. So let's say you got a mule for a high end, because most mules go for $1,000 to $3,000. But let's say you went high end, got a high end mule with all the bells and whistles. I don't even know what a mule with bells and whistles look like. I'm thinking maybe like it got buffer legs or something like that. It pulls all the shit. But anyways, and there's tractors now, so just give me a tractor. But whatever, they gave you $8,000 for the mule. 40 acres. I'm gonna go off the California numbers. 40 acres in a desolate location will run you about $6,200. That's in a location that you can probably never get water to or build on. And if you did build on, it would be some type of shack that wouldn't have water. So then the city would come and shut you down because you need water to have a house. It's a fact. Look it up. So let's say they put you in a nice area. Top areas in California, 40 acres will run you about $8 million. $8 million for 40 acres in a nice area in California. $8 million. So at this point, the government would owe every African American family $8,000. So by the numbers, that is probably one, very impossible, and two, they would just be handing out cash. So here's my problem with giving cash. Without ownership, the cash that you are given is going to dwindle down. Let's say they gave you $8 million, and let's say, as clueless as most of us are when it comes to money management, because we didn't have it, because we don't have generational wealth, because of the system that we've always suffered from. So let's say they gave you $8 million, and let's say the majority of the people out here have no idea what to do with their money. It's like a basketball player when they first win, they first get picked in the lottery and they become millionaires overnight, just like that. They give you $8 million. You take that $8,800,000 and you go buy a Bugatti. Maybe you want to be like Floyd, so you go get a Rolls Royce. You get a few other cars. You get shoes. You buy a mansion. It's your $8 million right there, right? Your mansion expenses are super high because it's just facts. The more rooms you have, the higher all your utilities are. Your Bugatti needs to be serviced at 10,000 miles. Your Rolls Royce needs to be serviced at 10,000 miles. And your whatever other car that you bought because you wanted a foreign, because they said that's what the rappers told you to get. You are now broke. They have given you $8,000. You are now broke, and you have to look at your kids in their face and tell them that Dad sold you out for $8,000, and I didn't have any stake in ownership, so therefore we are still broke. What's the point of having reparations if you can't completely benefit off of them? It's just a question. Now, giving out cash is not the answer, right? I just gave you reasons why. Some people will invest well and some people will do well. Others won't. And if we're approaching systematic problems, we all want to build wealth. We want us to be able to have generational wealth. There's always going to be poor people in this world. That's just how the world spins. However, if you're getting reparations, you want to have longevity, like the Jewish people. Correct? Correct. So, here's the thing. Unless we rebuild the infrastructure of cross country of the educational system, where people can learn to do things, learn how to use their wealth, learn how to balance the economical scale, there is nothing that giving anyone money will do. So, I was talking to one of my homegirls today, and she was speaking about the same thing, because everyone's been talking to me about reparations. And she was talking about using that money to then put into disenfranchised black communities. So each black community would get a disenfranchised budget, right? Where you would put money into that community. You would then give them books that are up to date. Teachers' salaries will be paid high, so these teachers will want to actually do the work that they're being that's being dumped on them by 30 kids per class, and they would shrink. That number would dwindle down to about 20. You would also want to reinforce the buyer's market, adjust the scales of voting areas, and give black people a powerful voice, a little bit more power. Like, for instance, electoral college, maybe make disenfranchised neighborhoods have more voting power. Maybe we get more electoral votes. These are all things that I'm talking about doing with funding. In this way, it ensures that African Americans are able to latch on to some type of generational wealth and be great. Because you're not going to give me $8,800,000 and tell me to shut up. for the rest of my existence because we were fucked over. It happens all the time where you sit back and you think about these things. But it has to be a smart move. So, changing the system, infrastructure of the schools, making the demographics in that area rise, housing, better housing conditions, getting rid of fucking roaches and infestations. All the things that you wish for when you're an African American kid growing up in society, and then have to be told that, hey, no, you can still rise above this with less education, less schoolwork, less schooling, larger classrooms, and all these other things. So I thought that was a pretty good idea, because if you rebuild an infrastructure, you got a little clout. There's a little something that can better the livelihood of black people. We feel like we don't come from the slums. That'd be great. And then, allow ownership, change redlining. Let our tax dollars work just as hard for our school district as tax dollars in richer neighborhoods. There's a underlying problem in the different the disenfranchised neighborhoods. There's a problem that we think that money will solve everything, and that's not the case. You see how many people on 30 for 30 go broke? How many athletes get all this money, don't know what to do with it, and go broke? There's no ownership. You have to own something to be able to obtain generational wealth. There is no way that you can get residual income without owning anything. If you have $8 million in your pocket and you're just paying out, at some point that will dwindle down to zero. It may not happen in your lifetime, but it may happen in your kid's lifetime, because you're not showing them anything either. So just think about that, you guys, before we jump on the boat about freaking reparations. Let's do our research. Let's actually come up with an idea that works. And instead of just thinking about people getting money individually, let's think about it in a whole. Unite. Everything comes together. It's at some point, we have to love each other. I never really understood how African Americans can be so tough and bold around everyone. Not just other African Americans, but Spanish people, white people, things like that. But we don't have that same boldness when it comes to police officers. I never understood that, because it's fucking walking around killing us all willy-nilly. Y'all like, oh yeah, don't do anything to the police officers. It gets too hot around here. Because if you do something to them, they are going to step forward and be upset with you, But anyways, it's neither here nor there. Reparations, you guys. Think about it. Think about ownership. Think about what you really want. Do you want things to be better now, or you want things to be better for you, your children, and every African American black person in this world after you? That's all I got. I gotta get out here and raise these kids.